Rush Hour 1 has always been one of my favorite movies growing up. I felt like I watched that probably 200 times, whether it was just because of Jackie Chan's insane fighting, Chris Tucker's unmatched comedy. I just ate that movie up.
Act like you from out of town.
I am from out of town.
Rush Hour came out in 1998, which when you watch this movie, you can absolutely get that feel, that pre-9/11 vibe, where this movie is that it finds a way to encapsulate just how carefree and just warm the world felt around 1998, because again, people don't understand. If you weren't alive, or at least old enough to remember the world before 9/11, it's just everything was so different. And also it shows just how different the geopolitical situation was between China and America, because this movie, you get this sense that it's almost like a propaganda movie to make both nations, feel they have more in common with the other, trying to build up a relationship, which in reality is a great thing. Both Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, they're absolutely perfect for their roles.
Instead of coming out of my mouth.
No one will ever be able to replicate what Jackie Chan can do. That man, what he can do with choreography, what he can do with comedy, the way he can actually make you laugh with his fighting is just, no one else can do that. And of course, Chris Tucker, the way he can go into that high-pitched voice, that way he can still feel very masculine, but also very emasculated in those situations. I'm not sure that someone like Chris Rock, who I've always preferred Chris Tucker over Chris Rock, not saying Chris Rock's not great, you can see the difference in their acting when you watch something like Lethal Weapon and Chris Rock's role there versus what Chris Tucker does in Rush Hour. And I just think Chris Tucker is one of the funniest human beings, and it really comes out so well in this movie.
And you lost a lot of evidence.
Still got a little bit left.
Drink your water. And I would say this is a really good example of what's changed in Hollywood. If you've noticed, there's so much more emphasis on franchises now and less just people focusing on the actual actors themselves. And that creates an issue when the quality of actors decreases, because people like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, especially Jackie Chan, they're so elite at what they do that you're never going to be able to find someone to replicate what they did for this movie. Yeah, you'll find another studio that wants to finance another movie like this. You can find writers who can write another movie like this. There's just only specific types of people or specific people themselves that can actually bring this type of movie to life. Franchises require replaceable actors, but the problem is Hollywood requires irreplaceable actors. Does that make sense? As much as these studios want to retain control, be in charge, feel like they're the reason why they're bringing people in, they just have to remember that, again, the peak of Hollywood was when we had people like Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, Catherine Zeta-Jones, all these just amazing actors and actresses. Yeah, I named Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's just so hot. I just watched America's Sweethearts. Now, when you watch this movie from start to finish, there's something that seems so smooth and so effortless about the way it all goes down, the way it's all presented. One of the most impressive aspects about this entire franchise, this movie, is that the fighting still holds up today, 27 years later. The choreography of it all, how smooth it is, and it's really cool to see how they script and choreograph the difference in their fighting skills and kind of play off of each other, but still show moments where Chris Tucker can still be valuable. And that probably is the strength of this movie. So much of the action, the comedy, it all comes and stems from who they are as people, but also their backgrounds, their heritage. And it's written well. It comes into play and impacts the movie. Chris Tucker goes and talks to his cousin who's running an underground poker league, who has gangster connections. And then there's Jackie Chan, who uses his discipline, his kindness, and respect to help him get through to people, help them empathize with him. But then, of course, there's moments where they make fun of each other's music, their food. I mean, this movie really lays into each other's cultures, but at the end of the day, it builds each other up in a way that we just don't see today.
Damn, Chin. Some greasy
Chinese food, no soul food here.
Kinda good. Need a little hot sauce, but it's kinda good though.
And I would honestly say this type of comedy, this type of movie is one of the most difficult to write, at least probably today, because you don't really see it at all. But the fact that so much of the content is based off of mocking their cultures, but at the end of the day, one, it's made in good fun. More importantly, the overall theme of the whole franchise, the movie, is actually building up each other's cultures and understanding why it makes them the good people that they are. Now, so much of these types of movies like Taken, where the girl gets kidnapped and has to be rescued, comes down to just how good of a job the actress does in making us care about her. The reality is, if you're just not a good actress, you're not written well, we're just not going to be as involved in the story, because part of us is like, well, just let her go. Almost every one of my channel's viewers is not subscribed to the channel. Do me a huge favor and hit that subscription button. We're trying to get monetized. My dog and I. This is one of those movies that you can tell that everyone who was involved in the making of it was just having a great time, especially when you watch those bloopers. It's like what led to the Marvel end credits scene. The character arcs that Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan go through. I mean, Chris Tucker starts off as a very independent, does not want anything to do with anyone around him. He screws people over because he just does not want a partner. And then we get to see him go on a journey where he finds out that yes, it's actually a great thing to have a partner, but we also find out why he didn't want a partner, about his father. And it's that same antidote that helps him bond with Jackie Chan, who's on his own own character arc, learning how to be less rigid, understanding that everything doesn't have to be done by the book. And it's just a really good example of how a message can be told without having to be so just specific or condescending towards another group by just saying, hey, it's a good thing to be open-minded about cultures that are different from you, and this is an example of how it can make you better. They don't say it, they just show it. And that's what makes a great story, showing us, not telling us. Because it's your ability to show us that helps us respect you enough to take your message seriously. It's a strong balance of understanding each other's culture, discipline, and respect in China with America's ingenuity, our creativity, strength. The movie just knows how to play on that without crossing the line. This movie also has an example of a very strong female written in the 1990s. Without her, everyone, or at least the kid and everyone within the vicinity of that bomb, dies. She's arguably the most important character of that entire movie. That's where the 1990s and the 2000s did such a good job with delivering a message without beating you on the top of the head with it. This entire movie, Chris Tucker minimized what Tanya could do for him as a partner, but in the end, he saw that without her, this entire thing wouldn't have been possible. Not all strengths have to be brute force. A lot of it can be intelligence. In fact, intelligence is probably the greatest strength of all. I'll keep coming back to it. I genuinely feel it's that pre-9/11 vibe to this movie that just makes you feel like there isn't any like existential threat to your humanity or freedom in every movie you watch, right? This movie just focused on the comedy, the actors, the story. It didn't care if it hurt your feelings because again, back then, no one cared about these types of jokes. You just laugh because it's funny. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. Let me know if you think this movie will ever get remade. Look for the review of the second one here in the next couple of days. I'm having such a good time watching these old movies. As always, I appreciate you. Yeah, no, these aren't real. And click one of these if you want to watch one of my other videos. I think they're pretty good. They're getting better. They're getting better. As always, go out there and do something great.